Hello everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to sign in and hear more about marketing. Welcome to Successful Marketing for your childcare service. I'm delighted to have with me Mei, who is our social media expert here at the Alliance, and Emanuela, who is managing all of your inquiries as well, and myself, Kathleen, and I'm the marketing manager here. Please do feel free throughout our webinar to ask any questions. Emanuela will be looking after the decks and will let us know when someone has something to ask us. I'll now go over what we'll be covering in this 1 hour session. You'll find out what marketing means and more about the impact of the digital revolution, marketing for us here in the early years, and how to develop your childcare offer, and the importance of considering the 7 Ps, and then a more practical element, which is about how to pull together your marketing plan, with Mei giving some focus on social media, particularly Facebook, and also covering the importance of your website. And in the final part of the session, we're going to be talking about measuring success, just so that you know what worked and what perhaps didn't for next time. And then finally, it's about further support and obviously more time for questions if you have any. And then I think that would be everything. I think it will be up to an hour by then. So please, as I say, do feel free to ask any questions throughout, and Emanuela will be here to take your questions. So what is marketing? Most of us think that marketing is simply about selling products or services, but this is only a small part of it. Marketing really enables you to understand customer needs and to improve what you do constantly. This helps you to keep the loyalty of your current families, if we're talking about the early years, while also attracting new parents to register their children. The definition is a bit dull, but hopefully it is quite clear as well. It's basically a management approach, which means that it helps you to get closer to your customers and predict and anticipate what their needs are, so that you can constantly review and improve your service and you'll have no surprises. For most early years providers, you know at this particular time it's so important to your long-term survival. Over the past years, 5 years at least, you will know in the sector that it's become increasingly competitive in the marketplace, and there are lots of other external factors that are putting increasing pressure on businesses, from government policies such as a free and inverted commas childcare entitlements, to lots of new changes as well, and increased business costs. Of course, on top of all of this, there's the digital revolution. Everything is changing, and you would know from your personal life, social media, that it's now dominating how we communicate. It has transformed how we communicate, how we seek and receive information, and also how we promote what we do. So I would say that every childcare service marketing plan nowadays should include digital elements. And how has marketing changed in response to these kinds of changes? As a result, it's much more about attracting customers to you rather than going out to look for them. So it's really important to ensure that you're providing interesting, useful information which connects to them. There's a kind of technical way that you describe that, and it's called inbound marketing. And it basically involves you sharing free advice and support, usually in formats such as blogs or videos. It's now much less about obvious promotion too. It's more about creating authentic connections with your customers, which means basically friend recommendations and the views of respected. Oh, gosh, sorry, I'm fading in and out. Thanks, Eileen, for letting us know. We've pushed the microphone a bit closer. Is that a bit better? So if we're talking about how it affects, this new change affects us here in the sector, the rise in popularity of influencers is key. And for us as childcare providers, that means that personal recommendations and positive reviews are important. And of course, if we look at our influencers, you probably no surprises here. Our current parents and their children already using your service are the most important influencers in our sector and in your childcare service. So the importance of parent reviews can't be underestimated. As you know from experience, and it's also supported by evidence, parents are most likely to find out about a childcare service through a personal recommendation. I'm pleased. It seems the sound is a bit better now. So the power of parent recommendations. Many of your current parents are likely to find out about you through direct face-to-face recommendations by other parents in their network of friends and contacts. This is great, but this also isn't realistic to rely on completely. You would only reach a small proportion of your potential market of local families using this way. So then you really need to broaden your reach, but still use that persuasive value of positive recommendation by your parent peers. This is why your business website should always show positive quotes from happy parents. So if that parent isn't familiar or doesn't have friends there, they will feel comfortable and reassured by seeing positive quotes from others. So next up, we have a focus on the influencers we've covered, and then top tips. I think we're going to be looking at marketing for your setting, and the first steps starting off your plan. Before you develop your childcare offer, you really need to understand your customers. You shouldn't assume anything and guess what your offer is in the hope that parents want to take up childcare places with you. Successful providers always find out what their parents need first and then shape their childcare offer around this. Market research should underpin everything you do going forward. So this is really the important first step to developing your marketing approach. For parents already using your service, ensure that your registration process includes a privacy notice. Parent permissions allow you to contact them to participate in research and receive selected promotions. Ensure you ask them their communication preferences, such as email, phone, social media, or website. You can now approach them to participate in further surveys, just to make sure that your service is changing, adapting, and improving along with their needs as well. For parents who are not registered with you, another key audience, they are your important potential customers. So with any new inquiry you receive, always make sure you ask how they heard about you and for permission to log their details. Say that you may like to follow up to ensure they have everything they need to make their final decision. That would be GDPR compliant, but it means you can have that further contact with them to warm them to your service. If they don't come back and you follow up and they have gone with someone else, it's important to ask why they didn't choose you in this instance. And then that's really useful feedback to look at perhaps offering an additional service. As far as survey tips go for your research with parents, do keep any survey short. As you would all know, parents are really busy, so try and keep it to only 6 or 7 questions. Really keep it very simple here as well. Why did you choose our service? What does your children enjoy most about coming here? What do they particularly like, or what do they find challenging about or limiting about your service? And then all of that useful feedback you and your team can work together on regularly to look at how you can improve. Another parent-friendly suggestion for feedback is leaving a suggestion box in your main reception as well. And also ask parents to leave online reviews or interact with your social media posts on Facebook as well. As far as other research that you should undertake as well before you start developing your offer, always check out your competitors in the area and do a SWOT analysis. So really look at what their strengths are, their weaknesses, and any opportunities that you see that you can fill better than them. It means you can really be quite honest as well about what limitations you have, and if you can't match them directly, look at things that you can do that will give you that added value as well. And of course there's the wider local community, socio-economic environment. So really understand what's happening in terms of planning developments, whether there are going to be any new estates being developed or developments. So check regularly with your local council's planning department, and also ensure you've got some close links with local authority early years specialists as well, just to understand their funding or commissioning priorities as well. So the next step really is to develop your childcare offer. This is essentially everything about your service, from how you charge for your childcare places to how you choose to deliver and promote your service. The easiest way really to look as I suppose objectively as possible at what you currently do and how you can improve it is to consider 7 Ps, they're called. Essentially, they cover product, your service, which is essentially, if you're thinking about your childcare service, that is your product. It's really what are your parents after? Can you demonstrate and show how high quality your service is, your Ofsted rating, for example, how flexible you are to their needs, what makes you unique, how you can add value, free nappies, for example, or a breakfast club. The second P is price. Obviously, this is a very difficult area because there are limits here as well in terms of how you manage your business, but quite often you can add things that are attractive to parents which may not necessarily impact on your cost per hour. For example, your fee payment terms, are you consistent and transparent in the way you communicate about your costs, what are the incentives if other parents perhaps attract a new registration for you, bring a friend to the summer club, for example, and then you can bring them into the fold and start to promote directly to that new potential parent. And then the third P is place. Again, it differs from setting to setting. Is your physical space accessible and attractive? Do you have a nice indoor or outdoor play area? Are you easy to find and well located? Do you promote where you are clearly in all your communication if you're in a particularly awkward place or you're hard to find? Is your space unique? For example, are you near a park or a lovely woodland area? Do you have new equipment perhaps that you've been able to secure with fundraising? Just anything to make you stand out. And of course promotion, which is essentially what we'll be talking about a lot later. Just making sure that everything that you share about your setting in terms of in print material, for example, is very clear and is consistent, well branded, so it's recognisable and that reassures people, and professionally presented. And keep it really simple. Don't feel that you need to use flowery language. Most parents just want to know, is their child going to be safe here? Are they going to learn and develop? Are the staff friendly and nice? Is it a nice environment for their children? The next P, which is, getting confused with my P's, P number 5, I think, is people, and again touched on that. Always good to find ways to highlight how kind and well qualified your staff are. That's really key for parents coming in if they know very little, if the children are happy and the practitioners are engaged with the children. I think that reassures them. And it's really important to value that the team contribution and the influence it has over parents making that decision to register with you. So ensure that they're always included in your online and print promotion. There's always mention. P number 6 is process. Can your parents, when they join, is it easy for them to go through all of the sort of dull processes like registration? Do you get back to them quickly if they have perhaps inquired about a place? If they're actually a current parent and they may have a complaint, large or small, do you resolve quickly with them? Do you make sure that you know what individual parent communications preferences are when you first contact them? Some people prefer face-to-face, others would much prefer email or e-newsletter updates. And also, again, it sounds easier than it must be. Are your administration processes and systems customer focused so that it's really easy for them rather than suiting what works for us internally, operationally? And again, do you have clear policies and procedures which are in plain English and easy for parents to see and to understand? And I suppose this can be a more challenging issue that arises if in a good way you have a waiting list. I think it's important to make sure you have a really transparent process about parents who perhaps they know where they are on the waiting list and you keep them up to date and they don't feel that you've forgotten about them, and that is a good way of them feeling that you're professional as well. And for our final P, which is physical evidence, and it's what we were touching about before about influences. Do you display and share your parent reviews? And do you encourage feedback about your service constantly? And not just from your parents, but also your supporters, your staff, fundraisers, and just anyone in the local community, just to get a sense of how important you are within the community. Try to focus on every element of the P's. And don't limit to exploring just one or two, because it won't give you a full picture of your potential product. So after the 7 P's, we're on to really the practical bit, which is developing your marketing plan. Using all of that research and evidence and information you've gathered from your market research and from your analysis of your 7 P's, you should now feel really comfortable to develop your strategy and then your plan. Try and involve everyone in the development of the strategy within your team. It's a joint effort, and because you're all so busy, it's a nice way of everyone feeling they've got a role to play. And some people have skills with social media, and I'm really happy to do that, and others are great writers and they would feel more comfortable doing the promotional print element. So it's everyone's responsibility to get involved and to understand why you're doing this. You should, I think, probably sit down and agree the overall objectives, intended, sorry, I was just looking at some of the queries and I shouldn't because I distract myself. And I should say actually that I can certainly share a lot of this information afterwards, so don't feel you have to remember all of this. So it's really important to basically start your next step off, which is agreeing and developing your marketing plan. I think evidence does show that the best marketing plans always mix up your activities, and they definitely don't limit to just one or two activities. So you want to make sure your promotion reaches as many families as possible. So don't limit it to perhaps just doing a flyer and then maybe dropping it around a local family-friendly estate or development, because that wouldn't be sufficient in itself. As I was saying earlier, for example, relying on your current parents to bring in new parents would be great, and that would be the best and most effective way to get new registrations, but you can't rely on that either. So some ideas around your marketing activities would be sort of face-to-face promotion, which is one of the most effective ways really to persuade and convince parents to register with you. But it's also one of the really most intensive in terms of staff time. So I think it does make sense to try and perhaps plan one lovely celebratory event at least once every term if you can. So it can be anything around family-friendly events or festival celebrations, fundraising events, and encourage your current parents to bring their friends along so that you can use that as an opportunity to convert.
Kathleen, we've got a question from Julie, and she wants to know specifically what kind of event could she hold?
Okay. I think what works really well to attract publicity and positive publicity, because that's another benefit of having planning an event every term, is to perhaps find a way of celebrating. You could be celebrating your first birthday as a group, or it could be a Christmas event or another religious festival, and invite your local MP or mayor to come along and take some nice photos and images, and then you can share that with the local press. And even if they don't come along on the day, what you can do is just send a press release afterwards with some really lovely photos, and try and make it as child focused as possible and messy and silly, because I think a local media are more likely to pick it up. And that means you're reaching outside your immediate families as well, and it's a nice way of embedding yourself in the community. I hope that answered your question, Julie. Thank you for that. And of course, we've talked about recommendations, so I won't dwell on that too much. But I think a top tip would be, and I know some colleagues already do it, practitioners do it, is to set up a review referrals or bring a friend incentives with your current parents, because that's a really nice way of getting new parents to come in and register, or at least come and check out your setting. And then, of course, there's partnership working with local family-friendly services. In some cases, competitors, if they're oversubscribed or you're oversubscribed and you're comparable quality, I think that works well, and it has worked well for some settings. But certainly, just ensure that your children's information service, libraries, job centres, health centres all know who you are, and ideally have your flyers displayed there. I think most parents feel more comfortable reading about your setting within a trusted environment like that than if you do quite an untargeted sort of flyers through the sort of houses around your area. It would be much more effective to try and go through third parties like that. And then, of course, there's free and paid advertising. So where you can, obviously there are budget considerations, and advertising does work well, but it's normally just for a brand recognition side of things, and you have to think really carefully about the value of that against perhaps doing other activities. I think certainly make sure that you're listed in all free local online and print directories in your area. And if you are going to take up paid advertising, make sure it's really targeted to the family market and includes a call to action, which is essentially a code or some reference so that you can actually track afterwards whether or not you got value for money. But I think, for me, I think the most important thing is to develop relationships with your local press, and just make sure you just send lovely, cute photos, messy activities, anything with a focus to them, to community press, because it's more authentic in terms of people reading that will see that, will be more attracted to finding out more about your setting than if perhaps they read advertising with you saying how great you were. And of course, Mei is going to talk very soon about digital promotion. Digital marketing is really cost effective, it's immediate, and it's a really effective way to reach parents quickly. And of course, Mei is going to cover the website, the importance of maintaining your website and creating that lovely shop window and to showcase what and who you are. And of course, Facebook, particularly for our market, is really, really important. And again, Mei is going to cover that. And I've touched upon press and PR again. Really important, particularly if you perhaps had a bad review or you had some coverage that, perhaps you felt uncomfortable about. The most important thing is to address negative stories as soon as possible, and offset that one negative comment or coverage with, you need to just work really hard to almost replace that with 4 or 5 positive stories. So the best way to do that is to continually keep feeding local press and media with positive stories about your setting. I think finally for me, and then I'll stop talking and let Mei take over, is really a top tip, and I think Mei may cover this as well, which is essentially make sure you make the most of the new childcare search platforms that are available. The biggest ones are daynurseries.co.uk and also childcare.co.uk. Really make sure that you're registered on there. I think childcare.co.uk, I'm pretty sure they are free to register. You have to pay, and that's how they make their money if you want to download your inquiries. But I think not to have a presence if a parent is searching and for you not to be there would be, it would be a shame. And I think it's also a really easy way for you to check up on your competitors, because you can just put your postcode in and your competitors will all come up. And again, parents can leave reviews there and push you up in your searchability. So that's the top tip, really. I think I won't talk anymore because I think we're ready now for Mei to cover social media. I'm not sure if you have any questions at this point, or we can hold off until the end, because I know May's got quite a lot to cover. That might be best. And Emmanuel, you just flag if you get any coming through. And now, over to you, Mei. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to just talk a little bit about social media. And basically, social media is a really, really great tool for you to engage with your customers, and it's designed really to help you communicate and interact with both current and prospective parents in a sort of friendly and approachable manner. You should kind of think of social media as a sort of extension of your website, or a shop window, if you like, to sort of invite customers in, to talk to them about your setting in a much more kind of informal way than compared to, the information that you put on your website. This will really help you to connect with customers on a more human level and develop relationships that will sort of eventually build trust with your parents and hopefully keep them coming back, and also to spread the word and make recommendations about your setting. So the key thing about social media is engagement, and you'll probably hear that a lot. And it's really important to take the time to develop a friendly and social community online where your parents are kind of actively engaged with your content. And one thing to really think about is how it looks, how your social media and all the kind of messages and posts that you put out look from a parent perspective, and really think about what they want to see rather than what your setting is trying to promote. You can look at what posts are popular with parents, see which ones get a lot of likes, comments, what things they're sharing, and also take the time to read comments and have a look at what kind of questions they're asking, and where possible always try to sort of respond. This will really help to set you aside in terms of being more approachable to customers, and the way you interact on social media will ultimately kind of impact how parents view your staff and your setting, and obviously these are all important factors when it comes to parents choosing childcare. Another thing to take note of is that these days customers really do not want to be sold to, and social media shouldn't be used as just another platform to kind of sell your services. Parents can find all of this information online and on your website. All your posts should be kind of engaging and ultimately useful to your parents. And obviously, whilst kind of sharing important updates and events about your setting is necessary, you should also think about ways to kind of show off your expertise and your knowledge of the sector. Maybe you're involved with kind of schemes in the local community. Really give a taster of what activities your children, their children will be involved in day to day, how this supports their learning. You can share success stories, tips and advice on how parents can support their children at home. That's always really popular. And again, when planning your posts and your content, really think about what your setting offers that kind of sets you apart from the competition, essentially, and how to do this without seeming too pushy or salesy, I guess. So I've decided to focus on Facebook for this webinar, as it is one of the most popular networks and most people will be kind of familiar with it already and likely to have a Facebook account. I think it's also more flexible in terms of the type of content you can post, how you can share it, and in some ways it kind of is very similar to a website in the features that it offers. So aside from being able to share kind of live updates on your news feed, you can have you can create a business page where you can have a sort of profile with all of your key information. Again, just make sure that anything that you put on there, just double check your details are correct and just regularly keep up to date with it. And if there are any changes, do update your profile regularly. It's also great for kind of sharing important news and updates on your main news feed. And one thing that's good with Facebook is, you can post information in lots of different formats. So, you can, if you've just got a short kind of update, you can post text or, add photos, web links, and it's also very easy to kind of repost things from other pages, and that helps to keep your content looking fresh. You can also decide to have a dedicated events page as part of your business profile. And that's the kind of place to upload event details and invite people to join. And once you've kind of created your events, you can also share this to your newsfeed as well. You know, you can share photos, like specific photo albums and videos if you like. There's also the function to share stories, which is quite a popular thing. It's very similar to Instagram, where you kind of share very short videos that disappear after 24 hours. And these, you know, are quite good for sharing live updates that you don't necessarily want to have on your main page. And as mentioned previously, you know, you can share web links or posts from other Facebook pages that share any best practice or advice from the sector. Another thing you can consider sharing are kind of local news and events which really show that you're engaged with the community that your families are in. And it's also quite a nice way to link in with other businesses and to create those warm relationships which will actually sort of help you to promote your businesses to their networks. You know, all it does is for you to kind of have a nice interaction with a local business, and you know, once you've connected with them, members of their network will then kind of see your page, commenting and liking on things, and you're likely to get followers that way as well.
May we have a question from David?
Okay.
He wants to know if Instagram would be a good promotional tool as well.
Okay, so Instagram is very popular and you know, probably just as popular as Facebook, but one thing that's quite tricky with Instagram is that, especially for childcare settings, it's a platform that's very kind of image-led, and so all the posts that you put on Instagram have to have an image on there, and you know, that can be quite tricky when you're working with children to get all the permissions in place. You know, lots of things surrounding GDPR, and so, and that's, you know, if you do have the images and kind of things, it you know, is quite a good platform. But I think Facebook tends to be quite a good one because you can share a real mixture of content. I hope that answers your question. And yeah, just a couple of other things about Facebook. You know, it's really easy to start conversations on there. You can easily kind of see comments, respond to them, and Facebook also has the private messaging feature, which is really kind of easy to use as well. Another really important thing, and most kind of social media platforms will have this, but Facebook does offer kind of insights, where you can see data on kind of how many people have liked or visited your page, and it also gives a really good breakdown of the different engagements that you have on your posts. So for each individual post, you can see kind of who's viewed it, who's liked it, commented, shared, or you know, if you've had a link on there, you can see how many click-throughs you've got as well. And that's really helpful for reviewing just, you know, how well your page is performing, and help you to see what types of posts are most popular and kind of what parents are engaging with.
Hi, Mei, we've got another question from Richard, and he'd like to know, does GDPR mean that we have to limit how we can market?
Thanks, Richard. In a sense, it has changed how we market. I think you have to be quite careful to ensure that you check the legislation. For example, you can't continually go back to someone who perhaps hadn't made an initial inquiry with you. It would be reasonable to go back once just to make sure that they have everything that they need. But you really can't hold that data afterwards, and you can't market per se. Again, the same happens if you're capturing people's details. If you have some lovely events, for example, open days that you're setting, and a parent comes, and if they don't want to leave their details, that is perfectly fine, and you should ensure that they're not collected and they're not communicated with afterwards. And if others do want to leave their details, you need to be quite clear that you're holding their details there, and that you will be getting in touch with them in the future, and are they happy with that? Ideally, what you should be trying to do with any communication with a potential parent, or if you're commissioning services, for example, with early years funders, just be really clear at the offset how you intend to use their personal information, and ensure you keep a good track, so you know why you've collected in the first place. And similarly for survey, capturing people's feedback in surveys. It should not be shared outside your setting with anyone else. You shouldn't sell it on. Not that any practitioners or childcare service providers would do that. I think it's really the legislation really is to protect the customer, and I think if you're mindful of that, and if you have a good relationship with your audiences anyway, it shouldn't be a problem at all. I hope that answers your question, Richard. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over a few kind of best practice tips on using Facebook, and to be honest, these apply to any type of social media platform really. So I'll just go through a couple of do's and don'ts. So do always remember to be friendly and inclusive, and remember that everything that you post is public, and you are trying to attract potential customers as well as keeping your current parents engaged. As I said before, it's always good to share a variety of content so that your users are engaged. These can be fun and interesting activities that you do in your setting, any success stories, kind of news and events, things like, if you can, sort of very small competitions can also be quite popular as well, to kind of engage parents as well. Another thing is to make sure that you post regularly, and we'd recommend at least 3 times a week. It'd be great if you could post every day, but I understand, we're all very busy and it's often quite difficult to do that. But any kind of less than 3 times a week, it may seem that you're not very active on your page and parents are least likely to engage. You should always try to encourage interaction, so you can ask your users for comments or suggestions, add a question at the end of your post, what do you like about this? Social media is a really good way to kind of quite informally try and get feedback about things that you're doing in your setting, and it should really help you when kind of planning future content as well. As I said, you can use different post types, try to mix it up with, photos and videos. Videos are always really popular, and this will make your newsfeed look really fresh and interesting. Do take the time to monitor your page every day, and work through all your notifications, try to respond to any comments. If you might not have time to respond to every comment, but what's great about Facebook is you can kind of just do a little like, and then it shows that users that you have read it and you've acknowledged them. And always try and kind of get back to people if they've sent you a private message or a query that's very specific, within 1 working day. So another thing to consider is to have a secure Facebook policy in place, so that anyone who helps you to manage the page are really clear about the kind of do's and don'ts and what type of content should and shouldn't be posted on Facebook. And lastly, to remember that your Facebook page or any sort of social media is a kind of shop window to your website, and to add links where possible that will drive and increase traffic to your main web page. So moving on to the don'ts. So I'd recommend not using overly formal language. Social media is supposed to be kind of quite friendly, and you want to seem approachable to parents and kind of, start conversations. Again, don't share any non-GDPR compliant images or stories, and if you're unsure, always kind of double check whether you have permissions in place from parents before posting. As I said before, don't forget to post regularly. If someone visits your page and the last post was a few weeks ago, they might think that you're inactive and they won't bother kind of following or liking your page. I have mentioned this already as well, that Facebook shouldn't be a place where you just promote or kind of push your services, as this can be off-putting to people. Parents are more interested in kind of seeing your day-to-day activities with children, or kind of posts that offer tips and advice. In terms of sharing login details, try to limit this to a couple of people at most who kind of really need it. And it's always good practice to change your password every few months or so as well, just to make sure that your account is secure. And just lastly, it's also, if you see any kind of particularly negative comments, your first reaction might be to kind of delete or ignore or kind of respond. And I would say, unless it's kind of outrightly abusive or profane, it's always better to kind of show that you've acknowledged their comments and respond in a kind of professional manner. You could just say something like, very simple, thank you for your comment and your feedback. I'd be interested to discuss this with you in more detail. And then once you've done that, try and take the conversation offline as soon as possible and resolve it directly with that person. And why this is important is that actually users kind of like to see that you can handle negative feedback and that you've kind of acknowledged what people have to say and responded to it in a professional manner, rather than kind of seeming like you don't care. And it just adds that human element to it as well. Okay, I'm just going to move on to websites now. I'm sure kind of most of you know a lot of this already and already have a website, so they're just a few reminders. So why have a website? Obviously, it's a way to kind of share key information. It really showcases what you have to offer, and it is often the first thing that parents will see and the sort of first impression that they get of your service. It also makes it easier for people to find your business online and then get in touch to contact you. So, people will kind of search for your name on Google, and you want it to, you want to have a website there for them to click on, and always make sure that you have contact details of some sort on your main page, so it's easy for parents to get in touch. And lastly, it just shows that you're a professional business. So onto the next slide. So what should I, put on your website? Like I said, key information, location, opening hours, term dates, specific activities, fees, contact details, telephone, email. Perhaps you could have like an online or inquiry form for parents to fill in. Parent testimonials or quotes. These are often really important, as I think Kathleen touched on it previously. People are always looking at kind of quotes and reviews and testimonials from parents. You might consider adding your Ofsted rating and links to your latest Ofsted report. And most importantly, sort of just making sure that your website is attractive, add lots of images of friendly kind of staff, children, but again, just make sure you have those kind of correct permissions in place. you might also want to kind of really think about what makes your setting special. You know, do you have a specific approach? How do you look after the children? Are there sort of particular activities that are quite unique to your setting? Are there any particular kind of themes that you're looking at, or, you know, celebrations that you're focused on for a particular term, and just to make sure those are always kind of kept up to date. You know, are there any other things that you offer? Perhaps you've got a forest school attached to your setting, you know, and anything that kind of sets you apart and makes you special. You might also want to share daily routines and timetables, and sort of highlight the different areas and kind of rooms and play areas and outside space that you have to offer as well. If you do have a kind of digital brochure, you can also create links to this, or, you know, make it available to download on your website as well. And again, like I said, videos are always really popular, so, you know, if you do have a promotional video, it's a good idea to put that somewhere on your main page as well. So, and yeah, just lastly, don't forget to make sure you keep it updated. As I said, if information's out of date, you know, parents might still, you know, might wonder if you're still open or still operating. Always check your spelling, punctuation and grammar, as any mistakes can become professional. So, you know, before publishing anything, it's always a good idea just to kind of read over, make some, you know, ask somebody else to have a quick glance over to make sure everything's correct. And again, that's, I feel like I'm going on about the same point, but just make sure that images are always GDPR compliant. Okay. So what next? If you haven't sort of set up a website yet, just a couple of tips for how you can get started. So you have two options here really. You can start by building your own website, and there's lots and lots of useful tools online, offering kind of free or very inexpensive templates, Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, WordPress, just to name a few. You know, have plans starting from around £6, and, you know, most of their templates are quite user-friendly, and they'll have tutorials and things that help you kind of set up a very basic and simple website. Another route you could go down is, you know, finding a website design company or a web designer to help you. If you do this, you know, you should always kind of give them a brief and ideas for what you're looking for. It's always a good idea to kind of investigate any ongoing costs as well. You know, some web providers might charge for hosting and ongoing technical support. Another thing to consider is to make sure that your web design is responsive. So that means that it's compatible with mobiles and tablets. And just to ask about things like updating, you know, will you have the ability to access the website to update it regularly, so you don't always have to kind of go back and forth with the web designer to make changes. If you do want any more information about this, there's a website called websitebuilderexpert.com, which has lots of useful information about setting up a business website. And obviously, you know, you can get in touch with us as well, and we can offer some more advice if you need it. Okay, and I think I'll hand back to Kathleen to finish off the last.
Lovely, thank you, May. So we're nearly at the end now. It's just about 5 minutes before 5 o'clock. I think the final slide really is to talk about, you've put so much work into all of these activities and considered so much. How do you measure success? And that's really key to ensure that you don't waste time in the future, and that you really embrace things that worked well, and you know that it's going to work well again. So try not to review at the very end of your delivery of your marketing plan, because quite often you can pick up and notice things that might be simple messaging problems or some confusion with the way you've laid something out, or something's a bit misleading, so you can tweak your plan as you go along, and that just keeps everything on track. So put simply, it just means agree a success measurement against each of the activity, and we've got something here that we can share with you afterwards, where you can ask certain questions about this particular activity to see if it's been successful. For example, if you've held an open day for new families, how many new registrations did you get? How many warm leads have you gathered from potential parents who, as Richard was saying, are happy for you to contact them again and for their names and contacts to be captured. So it just means that you minimise overall risk of failure in your future plans. So I think that is really everything from all of us three. I think for further support, we do have a new publication which I think will be maybe of interest to you. It's very new. It's called Operating a Viable Early Years Provision. You can buy it from the shop at the Alliance. It covers all elements of delivering a sustainable business. So marketing is obviously a very important element, but there are other things that go into a mix for your business. And we're also planning to launch 2 new educator courses. One is similar to this, but it will have more detail in it. It will probably have a template plan, and it's called Successful Marketing for Your Early Years Service. And then there's another one as well that we've produced. Mei has done this, called Social Media Marketing in the Early Years, which I hope you would find really useful as well. So watch this space. The 2 courses should be available in probably 6 weeks' time. So thank you so much for everyone for registering and signing in and listening to us. Of course, if you've got any questions afterwards, we're really happy to support in any way we can. All you need to do is email goToMeeting@EYAlliance.org.uk, and Sarah will be kindly keeping an eye out and will forward your queries to us, and we'll come back to you as soon as we can. So without further ado, I think it's 3 minutes before 5. Unless you've got any other questions, I'm just going to repeat the email address again. Thank you, Maria. So it's goToMeeting. That's one word. So it's GOTO meeting at EYAlliance.org.uk. So thank you again, everyone. And oh, yes. Thanks, Eileen. The Educare courses will be free to members, Alliance members. And then there's for non-members, there will be a cost. It's quite small, and obviously, if you're a non-member, we would love you to talk to us about becoming a member, because not only would you get these 2 courses for free, but you get 20 others, and they're all cash endorsed and CPD recognised and delivered by Educare, and they're really, well, I probably would say that, but they're great courses. So do get in touch with us too if you're a non-member and you want to have a chat about membership with us. Thanks for that, Eileen. So unless anyone else has got any questions, it's now 1 minute to 5. Oh, Maria, yes, we can share. What we can do actually, Maria, is share all of our notes. Hopefully they won't be too dull. Mei's certainly aren't, but we can share afterwards. But do just get in touch and we can share the full notes if you find that helpful as well.
Yeah, I just want to say there will be a recording of the webinar as well that we will upload onto Facebook and on social media in the next sort of week or so. So do look out for that as well.
And please do share as well. Thank you again, everyone. Have lovely evenings.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.